Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Shifali Nagpal from Bhagat Phool Singh Mahila Vishwavidyalaya. Today we are going to talk on the module Modes of Entering in International Business Part 1 from the paper International Business Operations. After studying this module, you will be able to consider the factors while going global, different modes of entry, pros and cons of different methods, comparative study of different methods. Entering in a new market is always a risky business with a big potential of failures. To research the option of entry strategy can help in determining which strategy to be used. The major question that the company face in today's cosmic economy is what is the most suitable and appropriate way for a company to go global or go beyond its border and enter unpracticed territories on foreign land. The companies are very skeptical regarding the profitability and the safety of the decisions. When a company is going global, there are various areas that need to be addressed. These are also the issues every company has to tackle when it puts its strategy to enter a new market. In this chapter, we will go through the entry methods that are most common and oftenly used. Each strategy has its own gain and shortcomings. Entry methods or the strategies can be broadly classified into two categories. One is a strategic alliances, second is a standalone entries. There are cases where the companies are forced to form a strategic alliances while entering in the new market. This is because of inadequacy of the resources that is required to successfully service the markets and derive profits from it. Entry modes can be broadly classified into three groups. The first group is entering new markets through export mode, and that include direct and indirect export, direct agent and distribution, and the direct branch subsidiary and other. The second group is contractual entry modes like licensing, franchising, technical agreements, service contracts, management contracts, construction or turnkey contracts, or co-production contracts on the other. The last one, that is called investment entry mode, includes sole ventures or acquisition or joint ventures. Factors to be considered before entering. The choice of entry must be based on an assessment of the nation's long-run profit potential. This potential is a function of the following factors. First, timing of entry. Once attractive markets have been identified, it is important to consider the timing of entry. Entry is early when an international business enters a foreign market before other firms, and late when it enters after the other international businesses have already established themselves. The advantages associated with entering early is known as first mover advantages. What are the advantages of the first movers? First is ability to pre-attempt rivals and capture demand by establishing a strong brand name. Second, ability to build sales volume. Third, increase in experience in that country which results into decrease in cost. Fourth, ability to create switching cost that tie customers into their products and services. Now, what are the disadvantages of the first mover? Rise of pioneering cost, that is, cost of promoting and establishing a product offering. Second, change in regulation in the host country. Second is scale of entry. Another issue that an international business need to consider while contemplating market entry is the scale of the entry. Entering the market on large scale involves the commitment of significant resources. Entering the market on large scales implies rapid entry, whereas on the other hand, the small scale entry is a way to gather information about the foreign market, but the lack of commitment associated with the small scale entry may make it more difficult for the small scale entrant to build market share or to capture the first mover advantages. The small scale entrants are more risk averse than the large scale entrant. Export modes. There are various modes of exporting. Let us discuss one by one. exporting is commonly used when someone talks about the export mode in general. One of the most common options are export modes, and it consists of the direct entry and indirect agent and distribution. Direct and indirect exporting. Many manufacturing firms begin their global expansion as exporters. Exporting is one of the methods that organizations can use to enter foreign markets. In this entry methods, goods and services produced in one country are offered to sale in another country through marketing and distribution channels. Thus, this method requires a significant investment in marketing strategies. In reality, exporting is the most traditional and well-established form of operating in foreign markets. Export can either be done as direct export, that is, using an agent, distributor, or overseas subsidiaries, or act via government agency. It can also be done as indirect export, that is, products are exported through trading companies, export management companies, piggybacking, and counter trade. Another option for exporter is to sell product direct to foreign end users. This option does not incur intermediary cost and exporters have higher control over price and profits. However, it is more practical for markets where potential buyers are limited in number or easily identified and reached. Mail order sales and web-based B2C and B2B sales are the most common forms of selling direct to end users. There is a difference between passive and active exporters. Passive exporters wait for foreign orders, that is, it does not invest extra to generate sales, whereas active exporters incur higher costs such as marketing costs to boost up the sales. As the entry method, exporting has several disadvantages comparing it to the other methods. Exporting is fairly simple, but with low cost and investment and risk. Other advantages of exporting are increased utilization of domestic plant, thus using idle capacity and reducing unit cost through economies of scale. Exporting also help in diversifying markets which reduce the company's exposure to domestic demand instability. On the other hand, the disadvantages of exporting include high transportation cost, trade barriers, tariffs, and problems with local agents. In addition, exporters have lower control of distribution and local agents, face the risk of exchange rate fluctuations, and are subject to custom duties and taxes in the importing countries. Although exporting costs are relatively low compared with the other entry methods, to enter and develop these markets, exporters usually incur cost to gain exposure, set up sales and distribution networks, and attract customers. Furthermore, product might need to be modified or redesigned, including packaging, in order to meet local requirements or customer preferences. Similarly, linguistic, demographic, and environmental differences demand special attention to ensure exporting success. Wholly owned subsidiary. Many organizations prefer to establish their presence in the foreign markets with 100% ownership through wholly owned subsidiaries. Under this method, organizations obtain greater control over the operations and higher profits since there is no ownership in split agreement. However, such entry methods require large investment, faces higher risk, especially in the political, legal, and economical arenas. There are two approaches for wholly owned subsidiaries entry method. One is through acquisition and another is through greenfield investments. Greenfield investments means using the funds to build an entirely new facility, though such approaches entails full control and no risk of cultural conflicts. Its costs are extremely high and return on investment are obtained in long run due to the extent of the time required to build the facility, start the operation, and attain the economies of scale and experience curve. In contrast, acquisition allow organizations to get through the foreign market faster. Organization taking the acquisition approach use its fund to buy existing facilities and operations. This is done by acquiring the equity of the firm that previously owned the facility. There are several advantages of wholly owned subsidiaries. Firstly, when a firm competitive advantage is based on technological competence, a wholly owned subsidiary will often be preferred mode of entry because it reduces the risk of losing the control over that competence. Many technologically sound firms prefer this mode for entering the foreign market. Secondly, the wholly owned subsidiary gives a firm tight control of operations in different countries. And thirdly and lastly, a wholly owned subsidiary may be required if a firm is trying to realize their location and experience curve economies. This is considered to be the most costly method of serving a foreign market. Firms choosing this mode of entry has to incur total capital cost and undertake the risk of setting up the overseas operations. The risks are a bit lower if host country enterprise is acquired, but acquisitions has different set of problems. But with the decision to go for the acquisition or greenfield venture is very crucial. Contractual entry modes. These type of entry modes consist of several similar but get different contractual arrangements between the firms form the domestic market and the company that licenses the intangible assets in the foreign market. This include licensing, franchising, technical agreements, service contracts, management contracts, construction and turnkey contracts, co-production contracts, and others. The goal is to enhance the long-run competitiveness for the partners in the alliance, and it is built on the belief that each party has something unique to contribute to the partnership. Turnkey projects. In a turnkey project, the contractor agrees to handle every detail of the project for a foreign client, including the training of operational personnel. At the completion of the contract, the foreign client is handed the key to a plant that is ready for full operation. It is very common in the chemical, pharmaceutical, and petroleum refining industries. That is mainly used in the industries which is complicated and uses expensive production technologies. The advantage of this mode of entry is earning great returns from the asset. This strategy is particularly useful where FDI is limited by the host government regulations. A turnkey project is a less risky than the foreign direct investment. Three main limitations are attached to this course of entry. Firstly, the firm enters into the turnkey deals with no long-term interest in the foreign country. This could be a limitation if the firm subsequently proves to be a success. Secondly, a firm entering in this way heedlessly creates competitors. And lastly, if the firm's process technology is a source of competitive advantage, then selling this technology through a turnkey project is also selling competitive advantage to potential or actual competitors. Licensing. Licensing agreement is an agreement whereby a licensor grants the rights to the intangible property to another entity for a specified period, and in turn the licensor receives a royalty fee from the licensee. Intangible property includes patents, inventions, formulas, processes, design, copyrights, and trademarks. Licensing is a common method of international market entry for companies with a distinct and legally protected asset, which is a key differentiating element in their marketing offer. Because little investment on the part of licensor is required, licensing has the potential to provide very large return on investment. However, because the licensee produces the markets, the products, potential returns from the manufacturing and marketing activities may be lost. Licensing to the foreign companies require a carefully crafted licensing agreement. A great care must be taken to protect trademarks and intellectual property. Licensing offers businesses many advantages, such as rapid entry into foreign markets and virtually no capital requirement to establish manufacturing operations abroad. Returns are usually realized more quickly than for manufacturing ventures. The other major advantage of license is that despite the low level of local involvement required of international licensor, business is essentially local and is in the shape of local business that holds the license. As a result, import barriers such as regulation or tariffs do not apply. On the other hand, the disadvantages of licensing are that control over the use of assets may be lost over manufacturing and marketing. The licensee usually has to obtain approval from the international vendor for product design and specification. This is because licensee is not a representative of the international vendor and compared to the distributor or franchisee is much more of an independent business that licenses only one specific and closely defined aspect of the marketing offer. Franchising. Franchising is one of the entry mode that has been widely used as a rapid method of international expansion. This is similar to licensing, although franchising tends to involve long-term commitments than licensing. It is more sophisticated form of licensing in which franchisor not only sells intangible property to the franchisee but also insists that the franchisee agree to the concede to the rules and regulations of how it does business. While licensing is employed primarily by manufacturing firms, franchising is done by the service firms. Similar to that of licensing, franchisor typically receives a royalty payment which amounts to some percentage of franchisee revenues. Some of the common but not essential features of franchised business are as follows. First, group purchasing agreements. Second, an exclusive territory for each franchisee. Third, group advertising programs. Fourth, initial and ongoing training and support from the franchisor. Fifth, assistance from the franchisor with equipment specification, site selection, and premises fit out and signage. The advantages of the franchising as an entry method is low cost and low risk. This is in return motivates the franchisee to build profitable operations as quickly as possible. The drawback is the problem of adapting the franchised asset or brand to local market asset. Franchising carries this constraint is the fact that marketing budgets at local levels are usually restricted to short-term promotions rather than market development. Let us understand contract manufacturing. This entry mode is a cross between licensing and investment entry. The company contracts a firm in the foreign market to assemble or manufacture the products, but they still have the responsibility for marketing and distribution of the products. This entry mode requires minimum investment of cash, time, and executive talent. It also provides fast entry to a new market. On the other hand, it also has a potential for formidable drawbacks like training of the potential competitor that have access to know-how and high quality products. Moreover, the profit from the manufacturing is transferred to the contractor. Management contracts. The international management contracts give the company the right to control the day-to-day operations in a firm located in a foreign market. Often, this contract do not give them the right to take the decisions on new capital investment, policy changes, assume long-term debt, or alter ownership arrangement. When a manufacturer want to enter a management contract, they seldom do so isolated from the other arrangements. Investment entry modes. An investment entry mode has many names like sole venture, foreign direct investment, solely owned subsidiary, or wholly owned subsidiary. Both in article sole venture, FDI, solely owned subsidiary, and wholly owned subsidiary is connected under the same headline, investment entry modes. A large investment in a new country can be done through the sole venture with the new establishment or sole venture acquisition, and also joint venture. The sole venture mode is high investment that also brings high risks and possibility to high returns. In sole venture mode, a firm tries to develop a foreign market by directly investing in that market. Now let us first discuss foreign direct investment. The Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, commonly named as OECD, defined foreign direct investment as a category of investment that reflects the objective of establishing a lasting interest by a resident enterprise in one economy, which is also called as direct investor, in an enterprise, direct investment enterprise, that is resident in any economy other than that of the direct investor. Foreign direct investment is a strategic approach. This entry mode offers a high degree of control over the international business in the host country. This is high financial commitment mode, but also a transfer of technology, skills, management, manufacturing, marketing, production processes, and other resources. To have a unique asset or competitive advantage is often important when a firm wants to replicate their good business in other country. According to, there are several factors that influence foreign direct investment. Both mention size of the market as one of the crucial determinant to which market the company shall choose to proceed with. Acquisition. Acquisition is when a company buys an established business in the foreign market. This mode of entry has become very popular. The reasons for acquiring a foreign company can be a mix of the following reasons. These are geographical changes, the acquiring of the specific asset like management, technology, product diversification, sourcing of raw material or other product of sale outside the host country, or financial diversification, etc. When one acquires a company, the success depends upon the selection process on which company to buy. Therefore, the possible advantages are not certain. The specific advantage can be faster start in the new market due to the established firm, new product line, and a short payback period due to the immediate income of the investor. The disadvantages, on the other hand, are transfer of ownership and control and hard to evaluate the prospects, but several of the advantages can turn into disadvantages if it is not handled in the right way. Joint ventures. A joint venture means establishing a firm that is jointly owned by two or more otherwise independent firms. This is a popular mode of entry. The term joint venture applies to the strategic alliances where there is a equity participation from both the foreign entrant and the local collaborator. The equity participation can be of different ratios ranging from the minority stake, equal stake to a controlling stake or a more predominant majority stake. The advantages attached with this mode of entry are reduction in the capital risk because the costs are being shared, benefit of the firm from the local partners' knowledge of the host country's competitive conditions, culture, language, political system, and businesses. In many countries, political conditions dictate this entry to be the only feasible mode of entry. Many companies avoid joint venture due to complexities involved in coordinating policies, decision, and execution with different companies. Other drawbacks are distinct differences in the culture, managerial styles, and communication barrier. Advantages and disadvantages of the entry modes. Let us now understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of the various entry modes. First, we take exporting. The advantage is it has the ability to realize location and experience curve economies. But the disadvantage is it has high transport cost, trade barriers, problems with the local marketing and agents. Now, turnkey contracts. The advantages are ability to earn returns from the process technology skills in countries where FDI is restricted. But the disadvantages to such contracts are creating efficient competitors, lack of long-term market presence. The third mode is licensing, which has the advantage of having low development cost and risk, but also has the disadvantages of lack of control over technology, inability to realize location, and experience curve economies. It also has the disadvantages of inability to engage in global strategic coordination. The another mode of entry is franchising, which has the advantage of low development cost and risk, and the disadvantages lack of control over quality, inability to engage in global strategic coordination. The next mode of entry that we studied was joint venture. The advantages with this kind of ventures are access to the local partners' knowledge, sharing development cost and risk, and also they are politically acceptable. But it also comes with the disadvantages of lack of control over the technology, inability to engage in global strategic coordination, inability to realize location, and experience economies. Wholly owned subsidiaries have the advantage of protection of technology, ability to engage in global strategic coordination, ability to realize location and experience economies, but comes with the disadvantage of high cost and high risks. So students, let us now summarize what we have learnt in this module. This chapter tried to explain the basic entry decisions, which include identifying which markets to enter, when to enter, and on what scale we have to enter the foreign markets. The most attractive foreign markets tend to be found in politically stable, developed and developing nations that have free market systems and where there is not a dramatic upsurge in either inflation rates or private sector debt. Though there are several advantages associated with entering a national market early, before other international businesses have established themselves. These advantages have to weigh against the pioneering cost that early entrants often have to bear, including a greater risk of business failure. There are 6 modes of entering in the foreign markets: exporting, creating turnkey projects, licensing, franchising, establishing joint ventures, and setting up of the wholly owned subsidiaries. All the entries have their respective advantages and disadvantages according to the requirement and how much cost and risk the entrant firm is ready to bear. The mode of entry is to be decided. Thank you.